Good day, everybody, and welcome back to another update on stimulus and Social Security benefits. We have really good news for stimulus, specifically for those who are seniors on Social Security or on SSI and SSDI. There are a variety of factors that are pointing in the direction of Congress trying to approve more stimulus, specifically for seniors and those who are disabled. A few of these factors are, for one, Democrats are worried they might lose the elections in 2022 because they're slipping in the polls, partially because they have not approved more stimulus. A couple of other factors which are encouraging Congress to approve more stimulus are the fact that the unemployment numbers came back pretty bad in September, as well as the fact that inflation is putting a strain on seniors, which is making things more expensive for seniors, and now experts are saying that Congress might have no choice but to approve that $200 per month stimulus for everybody on Social Security benefits. So let's discuss the details in this video, but before we do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I also have a second channel, so if you guys could do me a huge favor, click on the link that's in the description of this video, subscribe to my second channel. I'm going to be giving away a stimulus check on that channel just as a thank you for supporting my work. Okay, so at this point, most of you know that Bernie Sanders is trying to include a $1,000 stimulus check for seniors in the American Family Stimulus Plan. Well, now we have some experts saying that they might actually start pushing for that $200 per month stimulus, which of course adds up to $2,400 per year for everybody on Social Security, SSI, and SSDI. Now, the main reason they're thinking this might happen is because of everything we just mentioned in the introduction to this video. Unemployment is getting worse, inflation is getting worse, and on top of that, Democrats are worried they might lose the elections in 2022. Now, those elections are for seats in both the Senate and the House. And with Democrats having such a slim majority in both chambers, they're worried that if they don't approve more stimulus, they're going to lose a handful of seats in both chambers, which means Republicans could realistically control the House and control the Senate. And we've seen what happens when it comes to stimulus when Mitch McConnell is the majority leader in the Senate, right? Pretty much nothing gets done, which would leave President Biden as a sitting duck for his last 2 years in office, and even put us in a position where he might lose in 2024 and Republicans could completely control Congress in 2024. Now, stimulus checks is something that we've seen is proven to help win re-elections. In 2020, this year, those 2 Senate seats in Georgia, Democrats promised a third stimulus check. Then they won those elections. In California, same thing with Governor Newsom. Governor Newsom was up for re-election this year via a recall election. He actually approved a 5th stimulus check. Technically, California has had 5 stimulus checks already, and he won that re-election there as well. So a lot of experts think that Democrats want to do more stimulus to help them win those re-elections in 2022. And see, a lot of this is because they are slipping in the polls. Their poll numbers have been getting worse and worse every single month. And these poll numbers that are getting worse are mainly because of independents, those who are in the middle, who tend to swing between Republican and Democratic votes, especially those who are in swing states. You know, a lot of these states, they tend to go back and forth, and this election was basically won via the swing states. I mean, honestly, basically every election is won because of swing states and independents, because for the most part, if you vote Republican, you're going to vote Republican, and if you vote Democrat, you're going to vote Democrat. And again, let me know in the comments if you've switched parties recently because of everything going on, but for the most part, it's independents who really decide these elections. And President Biden is losing independent votes quickly and is getting worse and worse in the polls when it comes to independents. This clip from CNN does a really good job of summarizing what is happening when it comes to President Biden and Democrats in the polls. So let's take a look, see exactly what they had to say. Then we'll discuss what's happening with unemployment, inflation, and why all of this is pointing to more stimulus for seniors in this next stimulus package.
President Biden's poll numbers are, to use the technical term, not good. And for Democrats, there are even more troubling numbers underneath the surface. Joining me now, CNN senior data reporter Harry Anton. And the numbers here, they tell a clear story.
They do tell a clear story. You know, again, to use a technical term, not good. This is the trend in Joe Biden's job approval rating. You look at August 1st, you know, the approval was at 51, the disapproval was at 43. That was a net right there, a +8. But look at what happened. September 1, the net, -2, the disapproval above the approval. And now -5. So essentially going in the wrong direction. Not good.
Clearly underwater at this point. So who is driving this, Harry?
Well, this, I think, gives you the picture of who's driving it. So it's Biden's net approval by the party of the voters. And you can see, look, he's down among Democrats, he's down among Republicans, and he's down among independents. But among Democrats, he's down 10. Among Republicans, he's down 12. But look at this. You can see, look, he's down among Democrats, he's down among Republicans, and he's down among independents. But among Democrats, he's down 10. Among Republicans, he's down 12. But look at this. Among independents, he is down 19 points. He was in positive territory on August 1st at +3. He's now at -16 points net approval rating with independents. It's those folks in the center of the electorate who are driving this.
They've moved a lot, and they've moved pretty quickly. Why are independents particularly important for Joe Biden?
Because they are the reason that he won in the 2020 election. So this is comparing Joe Biden's 2020 margin to Hillary Clinton's 2016 margin by party of voter. And what do you see here? You see that among independents, look at that, Joe Biden won by 13 points. This was a group that Hillary Clinton lost by 4. This was a massive change. 17 points movement towards Joe Biden. It was those voters in the center of the electorate who helped win him the election. And now that he is underwater with them, a very bad sign.
What are they seeing or not seeing?
Yeah. So I think this right here, look at this. So how much has Biden accomplished in office so far? In late April, look at this. 51%, a bare majority, but a majority nonetheless, said he accomplished a great or fair deal. Now look at late August. Look at this. Down to just 40%. Now the clear majority of voters say, look at this. 58% say he's accomplished only some or very little. So they don't think that Joe Biden has gone to office and done very much.
See, that lines up really well with the third stimulus check. If you remember, the third stimulus check was approved in March, and most people received that stimulus check by the end of April. Well, then they promised another stimulus package, but here we are in October. That stimulus package still has not gotten done, and now basically 60% of independent voters think that President Biden has accomplished only some or very little while he's been in office. And look, back in April, over half of people thought he accomplished a great deal of things, and that kind of lines up with the last stimulus package, right? And let me know in the comments if you agree. With President Biden promising $200 per month for Social Security benefit stimulus, also promising to increase Social Security benefits long-term permanently on top of a potential fourth round of stimulus checks, and now a $1,000 stimulus check for seniors that Bernie Sanders is trying to include in this package. So let me know in the comments, do you agree with these polls? Back in April, when the third stimulus check was approved, did you think President Biden had accomplished a lot in his first 3 months in office, given the fact that in just the first 3 months, they were able to approve that stimulus package and send stimulus checks to the American people? Now, here we are in October. We had promised another stimulus package on top of the infrastructure stimulus, and neither of those have gotten done. So let me know, do you agree with these polls? Compared to his first few months in office, do you think President Biden has accomplished very little? Now, this is why experts think that Bernie Sanders and President Biden are going to push for a fourth round of stimulus checks and potentially $200 per month for Social Security benefits to make sure their poll numbers go up and they could win re-election in 2022. Now, guys, this potentially could be really, really good news for stimulus. Now, on top of that, we have the fact that inflation is getting worse. But first, let's talk about unemployment. Now, the good news is unemployment did drop in September, but just slightly to 4.8%. That is pretty much in line with what experts thought would happen. Now, the unemployment stimulus boost that was $300 per week, it just finally ended in September. Guys, think about that. I truly believe people on unemployment deserve stimulus, but they were getting $300 per week for a year and a half, when seniors were promised $200 per month, and they still have not received that. Again, this is $200 per month for seniors, not per week. Those on unemployment were receiving $200, $300 per week, right? So if we can afford to do weekly stimulus for unemployed, we should be able to do a monthly stimulus for those who are seniors. And guys, let me know in the comments if you agree. But with that being said, Republicans were saying that once the unemployment stimulus ended, that jobs would be added at a large rate. But this last month in September, they only added about 200,000 jobs, which was less than half of what they thought would actually happen. So basically, ending the stimulus for unemployment didn't really create a ton of jobs. We actually created less than we thought we would. Now, this does two things for stimulus. One, it proves that stimulus, in some senses, is really good and does not hurt the economy, right? Because that was one thing that Republicans were saying. If you're giving people too much stimulus, they're not going to want to work, which hurts the economy. Now, that did not really seem to be true. Although the unemployment rate did go down just slightly, we didn't add as many jobs as we thought we would. Now, secondly, the fact that we're not adding as many jobs as they thought means the economy is not growing as they thought they would. And when that happens, the government tends to approve more stimulus. See, this is one reason why experts think Democrats might try and do that $1,000 stimulus check and potentially do the $200 per month stimulus for everybody on Social Security, because it's been proven when you give seniors and those who are on SSI and SSDI bigger payments, most of that money does flow into the economy. So those stimulus payments do genuinely stimulate the economy as well, on top of helping the people who need the help. Now, let's quickly watch this video. This clip describes what's happening with unemployment. Then we'll discuss inflation and why experts are saying that could potentially lead Democrats to approve more stimulus for seniors as well, as the cost of living is getting more and more expensive for seniors.
Data, there are two surveys the government does. It calls businesses and says, how are you hiring? What are your numbers? And it calls households and says, are you working? So the household side of this equation is more people were saying, hey, yeah, I did get a job this month. That could be new business creation. That could be people not going back to their old employer, but starting their own job. We'll have to see how that pans out. Here's what the year looks like. Again, a disappointing net job creation in September, but August and July were both revised higher. What that tells us, there was a hiring boom this summer before the Delta variant was a big problem again. There was a lot of optimism and businesses were hiring. So where does that put us? Still down more than 5 million jobs in the pandemic. Look at this. We had that huge crash in February and April. It's taken us 17 months to try to crawl out of this hole. That hole is still more than 5 million. There's that jobless rate, though. That has been dramatic. And again, these are households here. Households, John, when called by the government, surveyed by the government, say, I do have a job. 4.8% is the unemployment rate for that survey. Really important, I think.
Okay, so obviously when the economy is doing worse and unemployment is not getting really that much better, we still have 5 million jobs less than we had before the pandemic. It really pushes Congress to consider approving more stimulus, right? So President Biden actually responded to the unemployment report. Let's take a look, see what President Biden had to say. Then we're going to discuss inflation, what's happening with the price and the cost of living, and why this is making life more expensive for seniors, making it more and more important that Congress approves that $200 per month stimulus for Social Security. That's also for SSI and SSDI, VA benefits as well, and why that would add up to $2,400 per year, which would go such a long way in helping seniors. But first, let's take a look, see what President Biden had to say, and let me know your thoughts on what he has to say in the comments below.
The jobs numbers also remind us that we have important work ahead of us and important investments we need to make. America is still the largest economy in the world. We still have the most productive workers and the most innovative minds in the world. But we risk losing our edge as a nation if we don't move. Our infrastructure used to be the best in the world. Today, according to the World Economic Forum, the United States of America ranks 13th in the world, 13th, on infrastructure, roads, bridges, ports, etc. We're among the first in the world to guarantee access to universal education back at the turn of the 20th century. Now, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, catch this, ranks America 35 out of 37 major economies when it comes to investing in early childhood education as a percent of GDP. 35 out of 37. On all these investments that fuel a strong economy, we've taken our foot off the gas. And the world has taken notice, including our adversaries. And now they're closing the gap. Look, so it's essential that we have to regain the momentum we lost. As my wife says all the time, a professor she is, any country that out-educates us is going to out-compete us. The work of our time is to prepare ourselves to be competitive to win the fast-changing 21st century global economy. That's why I proposed two critical pieces of legislation being debated here in Washington right now. One focus on the investments we need to make in the physical infrastructure of America, roads, bridges, ports, etc. The second focus on the investments we need to make in the American people to make us more competitive. I know this is my legislation, and I feel strongly about it, but the people who have the most at stake are the American people. So we need to stay focused on what these bills will mean to the people who are just looking for a little bit of breathing room, a fair chance to build a decent middle-class life, to succeed and thrive instead of just hanging on by their fingernails. We need to keep an eye on what's fundamentally at stake for our country, the ability to compete and win the race of the 21st century as we did the 20th century, a race that other countries are doing everything they can to win. In recent years, China has spent around 3 times as much on infrastructure, 3 times as much as a share of its economy than the United States has. Our infrastructure bill makes investments we need to rebuild the arteries of our economy, the roads, the highways, the bridges, the ports, the airports, the rails. And we're going to allow us to replace lead water pipes, which are poisoning our children and families. It's ridiculous. Build a modern energy grid that can withstand storms and carry renewable energy across America. Make high-speed internet affordable and available to everywhere in America. And create good union jobs in the process of putting that together. We're going to make the largest investment in public transit in American history. And we're going to make the most important investments on our rail since the creation of Amtrak 50 years ago. But it isn't enough just to invest in our physical infrastructure. We're going to lead the world like we used to. If we're going to do that, we also have to invest in our people. That's what my second bill does, the Build Back Better plan. That's what it does. Today, only about half of the 3- and 4-year-olds in America are enrolled in early childhood education. In Germany, France, the UK, Latvia, that number is more than 90%. We're falling behind. It's not just early education. According to one study, America ranks, catch this, America ranks 33rd out of the 44 advanced economies when it comes to the percentage of our young people who have attained a post-high school degree. The United States, 33rd out of 44. My Build Back Better plan gets us back on track to making 4 additional years of public education available for every person in America. 2 years of high-quality preschool in the front end, which indicates that over 56% of the children will be able to go through all 12 years and beyond without any interruption. And investments in community college, so our students can gain the skills they need and carve out a place for themselves in the 21st century economy. We're going to help build families. We're going to help them afford to care for their new baby, a child, an elderly relative. It's going to extend the tax credit for families with children. It's going to help us meet the moment on climate change and become a global leader in the fast-growing clean energy industries like solar and wind power. The whole world knows that the future of the auto industry is electric, and battery technology. We need to make sure America builds that future instead of falling behind.
Okay, so President Biden has made it really, really clear. He wants to invest in children, and he wants to invest in seniors and those who are disabled. He's talked about it over and over. He wants to increase tax breaks, which usually end up coming in the form of stimulus payments, to reduce childhood poverty and reduce senior poverty as well. Now, the fact that the unemployment numbers came out bad, what he said in this video is that this shows that we have more work to do. And it's really important that we get these 2 stimulus packages done, the physical stimulus plan and the American Family Stimulus Plan. Now, experts have said that he is pushing towards doing that $200 per month stimulus boost, which would last for an entire year, giving seniors a $2,400 per month stimulus boost. Now, we're hoping that's going to be included in this next stimulus package. At the same time, we have Bernie Sanders fighting for a $1,000 stimulus check, which would be in the form of a debit card and be accepted anywhere where debit cards are accepted. Now, inflation. Inflation is the last item we're going to talk about in this video. A lot of experts are saying that as inflation is getting worse, seniors specifically need a bigger monthly payment to cover the increased cost of living. Now, of course, we all know that next year we're going to have about a 6% COLA adjustment, which it will go a long way to help seniors. But quite frankly, it's just not going to be enough. And this is why experts are saying that Democrats need to do the $200 per month stimulus and potentially even the $1,000 stimulus check on top of that Bernie Sanders is trying to include. And this is because inflation is making things more and more expensive. And guys, let me know in the comments if you agree. Have your groceries gotten more expensive? Has your rents gotten more expensive? Has your gas and transportation costs gotten more expensive? Let me know in the comments below, because this is one reason why seniors truly need the stimulus. Now, inflation mostly affects seniors more than any other group of Americans. When you think about it, seniors live on a fixed income. Of course, it goes up slightly with COLA adjustments, but those have been really small lately. Your income is relatively fixed, but then inflation keeps making things more and more expensive. Now, this affects seniors the most. Those who are young and have jobs, they tend to get promotions, they tend to get raises, but when you're a senior, your pay is relatively the same. So inflation affects you even worse than most. And this is why experts are saying that seniors, out of all the groups of people in this country, need stimulus the most, and they are urging Democrats to do the $200 per month stimulus, not just for Social Security, but for SSI and SSDI as well, basically for everybody who's on a fixed income. Now, Jen Psaki had to answer some questions when it came to inflation, so let's take a look, see what Jen Psaki had to say. This is President Biden's press secretary. They're going to talk about how they're addressing inflation and the fact that they believe that this inflation is just temporary because the economy is reopening up still and we still have shortages due to the pandemic. So let's take a look, see what Jen Psaki had to say, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
So we're looking at Labor Department data. It shows that there is like a 0.9% decline in how much Americans have earned per hour on average this August versus last year. So year-over-year data when you adjust it for inflation. And so inflation is clearly eating into people's paychecks. And, you know, I understand that you're saying that, you know, and you have said this in the past, that impact from inflation is transitory, that the president will, you know, when asked how he plans to address this, we'll talk about competition issues, we'll talk about meat prices. But are there any sort of near-term steps that, you know, the White House is now thinking of taking as you look at this data that is starting to flow in? And is the president starting to get increasingly concerned, perhaps, that this is now starting to actually eat into people's paychecks?
Well, as you picked that wages piece of data, though, I think what's important to note is that the progress that the president talked about this morning is on a range of fronts, which is also important. We're at a faster projection of economic growth than we were at a year ago, far and away. The 4.8% unemployment rate is down from 6.3% in January. Unemployment claims are down 60% since the president took office. We have seen close to 5 million jobs created since President Biden took office, and wages actually went up month to month from last month to the prior month. So that's all important data. I understand we can cherry pick different data pieces from a year ago or 2 years ago, but what we're seeing in the trend is encouraging and is progress being made. As you well know, inflation is the purview of the Federal Reserve. They make projections. We rely on those projections. Those continue to say that it's transitory and will come down next year. It is also important that we address this over the long term and we address the costs. That is really what we're talking about in terms of the impact on the American people. People may not know. You hear inflation, it's like, what does that mean? That means rising costs, right? And how do you address those costs? And what the president's trying to do with his economic agenda is do exactly that. Cut the costs for the American people, child care, elder care, cut in half the child poverty, make sure that people have some breathing room. That's really what he's focused on doing in terms of how it's impacting people who are sitting at home worried about their economic future.
Are there specific, perhaps, commodities? You know, you spoke about chips. We've been talking about chips for a long time. Are there specific commodities or specific bottlenecks in the global supply chain that are perhaps emerging more than ever now, in the run-up to the holidays that the White House is particularly focused on?
Well, I've talked about a couple of the areas where we are quite focused on doing more and ensuring we're doing more, including addressing ports and transportation bottlenecks, which, as we know, can impact a lot of different areas because it is how goods are moved and transported, and ensuring there aren't the delays that I think you all have reported on in a range of ways. And John Porcari is somebody who has.
Okay, so obviously Jen Psaki is trying to point out the good things, right? Unemployment went down a little bit. Wages went up a little bit compared to last month, although they're technically down compared to last year when you take into account inflation. The bottom line here is inflation is real, and it's lasting a lot longer than the White House thought it would. Now, experts still think eventually it will come back down to normal, but it could take up to a year or two for this to happen. So in the meantime, this is why we need more stimulus. So Bernie Sanders is trying to include that $1,000 stimulus payment for seniors in this next stimulus package. Some experts think that there is a revival of the $200 per month stimulus for everyone on benefits because inflation is eating away at monthly benefit payments. And this goes for Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and VA benefits as well. So guys, Democrats are currently putting together the next two stimulus packages, and we expect them to have those done in the next couple of months. So don't forget to subscribe, and we will have a lot of updates to come. I will keep you posted as things develop on the next two stimulus packages, Social Security changes, and daily news updates as well. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. So until the next video, take care and have a great day.